Welcome to Spirit Baby Radio. I am your host, Kelly Meehan, a citizen of the universe and a passage keeper and mentor for our new Earth children. I believe we are entering into a new psychic structure of our reality, and it is meant to embody deeper trust and ways into solid self-love and fearless integrity. Our new world energy of spirit babies needs us to consciously create within conception, trust pregnancy, and have freedom to birth and parent from innate wisdom. This is Spirit Baby Radio. Welcome to episode 189, April 2024, Alchemy of Motherhood, a rebirth of the heart through loss. How can your heart be whole after loss? What deep support is needed for yourself or supporting others? How can you find your own spirituality to guide you through the unbearable? I have a special guest episode, and I'm going to share Liz in a moment. Hi, Liz.
Hi,
And
everyone. Hi, Kelly.
yes, thank you for being here. It's going to be a beautiful connection. And I want to talk about Liz because I feel like, I don't remember, we met maybe a year or two ago through the bereavement community, but she's such a star seed. And you know, everyone that tunes in knows star seeds. We're just like magnetized towards energy. It's like old conversations left off from somewhere. Like it's just like we know each other. And Liz is going to share a really, deeply, heart expansive story about her own loss and the work that she's doing. And so I'm excited to hear more about that because I've only heard parts of it. And so I wanted to share. So I'm not big into trigger warnings or, this is a grief episode, but it's also about transformation and love. And this morning, actually, and I want to reflect on this writing. Someone posted in another space where a woman is a death doula, and she talked about the beauty, and somebody got really upset about that. Like it's suffering, it's pain, and it's grief. And I was like, oh, like the balance of it. And it's like I could feel for both these stories of the beauty and yes, the heartache and the suffering. And it's that back and forth. And it's something to be curious to be with. We all have to experience grief. We are not free from our own rebirth and our own death. We come into this world, we're life, and then we leave. And so now we are in April, which is a grief month for me. So now my grief months are March, April, May. So March is my father, which I almost feel like, isn't that like masculine Aries energy? I don't even know. And then April is usually
Yeah.
my birthday month, which makes me like, oh, great, I'm sharing my birthday now with my mother's death. And then May is my older brother. And so I am officially orphaned. And there's a lot more to say about that. And I may speak more about it. We'll see. I've taken a lot of notes on the experience of my own grief right after the death, the communication and the death space and how it opened a whole other level between the grief of heartache, this whole other space that my energy body and my beingness has connected with in the stories that I carry of my parents. And in my world, many have known we went through a natural disaster and then right into the death of my father. It literally feels like it's the deconstruction and the release of my own childhood, my own identity as Kelly. And it's like, what the hell? And I'm just, riding through the spaces of like, I cannot control anything. And there's so many unknowns. And I'm not going to pretend that every day I'm not crying for 6 weeks now. There's a few days where I don't, even saying that I want to cry. There's so much energy moving through me, and I'm just trying to honor it and be tender with myself and yet feel my power. And I maybe Liz could speak about this. And what I want to share is that what I felt was like I realized that I have a lot of power, and it started to scare me actually. And I thought, is the new world going to be uncomfortable? Because I'm very uncomfortable right now. And as I become more sensitive and I see things clearly that would scare people, but I just see things differently, and I'm just receiving that. And even my ability to go into future timelines is more clear, and I don't feel scared of it. I'm just in observation with it. But I'm noticing this, and I'm like, wow. And I could see, where people get really, I'd like to use the word uncomfortable because I almost feel like we can go into fear or, panic or whatever. And so I feel like I want to dedicate actually this episode to my dad. So, so this is dedicated to him, 2024. And yeah, I'm not going to cry too much. But I feel like I've dedicated episodes to different family members, and I thank you, Liz, for being here and holding this energy with me.
I'm so honored to be here with you today, Kelly, and sharing this space of grief and love and expansion and light. My daughter Arati was born sleeping on the 13th of April last year, which is just a few days from today when we're recording. So I think it's like divine timing, and it's so beautiful to be accompanied by someone who understands grief and deep loss, and at the same time who has experienced through her work the expansiveness of a child of light, and how much wisdom and how much love and how much um, just growth, like soul level growth, that they always bestow upon their families. And I have never experienced the loss of a parent, so my heart goes out to you and to anyone who's experiencing any kind of grief right now. I feel like we are, in one way or another, experiencing collective grief
Mm-hmm.
because of what's going on in the world, and particularly women. As women, our womb is a portal. And this was like the main message from my daughter and my initiations that came afterwards, which I will speak about. But the main message of what I'm working and the work that I'm doing, it's the womb is a cosmic portal. Whether we acknowledge it or not, it's irrelevant. It is. And it connects us women not only to each other, but to the divine and to the possibilities, to the endless possibilities of life in every form and shape. And
Mm.
so my reverence to the womb and her power as a smart, you know, being kind of thing, uh, has just expanded so much because I understand how she's able to communicate with us, with the bearers of the womb, like us, the women, what we need, which direction to go, what decisions to
Mm.
make through insight, through dreams, through our lunar cycle. And so having this capacity to tap into timelessness
Mm.
through our own bodies is so magnificent and so, so powerful, that has been suppressed. And it
Mm.
has been erased from our collective consciousness because you said it yourself before. It's powerful and it's scary.
Mm.
It feels like, whoa, what do I do with all this insight? What do I do with
Mm.
all this emotion? What do I do with all of this? And so alchemizing and really, it's distilling the beauty of life through these
Mm.
processes, that I have the humble heart and the very, like, I don't want to say luck, but the fortune to accompany women through the healing that we do. It's just magnificent. And
Mm.
so, just as an introduction, but I would like to, like, set the stage, so to speak. Um, my work started officially with my daughter passing away. Um, but I first had my, what you would call my awakening, like around 2008. I started channeling spirit. It was like the most weird thing. I was like meditating, and then all of a sudden, I was seeing things that didn't make sense. I was saying things that were far too advanced and far too articulate for my own level of consciousness
Mm.
at the time. And I started recording these transmissions.
Mm.
And I didn't understand it at the time because in 2008, YouTube wasn't as big as it is today, and there wasn't much about all these star seeds was, I don't think that was even a term back then, you know. So I just allowed it to happen. It always felt good in my heart, and it was never something like predicting or anything like that. It was just like droplets of wisdom. It's like,
Mm.
you know, listen to these, pay attention to that, connect with yourself, like really started to expand my vision on life and the universe and everything
Mm.
else. And so I started delving into different traditions in order to be able to understand more about spirituality, because never once in my life had I even meditated. I didn't even know we had chakras at the
Mhm.
time. It was like so weird. So I started studying, and then I decided that I wanted to do many different things throughout the years. I became like a menstrual therapist, and then
Mm.
uh, women's circles guide, and many things that I was just doing for fun. And then I stopped for a long time, really couldn't find the reason for it. And when I got pregnant, it was kind of like designed by my daughter. I wasn't expecting to get
Mm.
pregnant. I wasn't looking to get pregnant. I just got pregnant. Obviously, we know how I got pregnant, but it was like in 14, I've been married for 15 years now, and I had never gotten pregnant, and I've never been on birth control. So I think that this baby just
Mm.
to come through me and give me all these gifts that she's bestowed upon me, because we could somehow at another conscious level. And you know, when I first got pregnant, I immediately noticed the changes in my body, but not my physical body, but my body of light. Like I could feel my field expanding. I have an older daughter, a 20-year-old daughter, but with her, I wasn't as conscious as I am now. So this time I was very aware of how life was pouring through me.
Mm.
And I immediately connected to a lot of women, of course, who were pregnant as well. And a lot of them experience things about like morning sickness. My husband calls it morning with MOUR, like morning sickness. He says it's
Mm.
because there is an identity mourning there,
Mm.
like going on. And so the woman kind of experiences, and it's true, I've done some research in biodecodification and so forth,
Mm.
but without getting to like tangent, I I started noticing this, and my own relationship with my womb started like evolving. I realized that my dreams were telling me things. Uh, I could really communicate with my daughter with a very, like, with such precision. I didn't know she was a girl. That was the only thing
Mm.
that I didn't know. Like, I feel like she concealed that she was a girl because she didn't care about being a girl or a boy. I don't think her mission entailed any of that. Um, but I felt all this connection within me that just kept pouring outwards. And I felt the connection with nature, and I felt the connection with the stars, and I felt this the cycles of life flowing through me. And I thought, this can't be like exclusively for me. Every woman should experience this. Every woman has a birthright to experience pregnancy as the expansive
Mm.
experience that it's designed to be, you know? And so I started sort of thinking about ways of working in this way with women when I give birth. Like after I give birth, I'm gonna da da da. But then my daughter passed away
Mm.
while I was in labor, and I thought, what? Where did I go wrong? What
Mm.
happened? And for because I feel like as an intuitive, uh, we sometimes want to create the idea that we should know what's going to happen, and but
Mm.
in reality we're not. I don't think that if we knew what's going to happen, we wouldn't go through a lot of the things that we have to go through. You know,
Absolutely.
there are just some things that we can't turn us on. And so then when she passed away and all the aftermath of it, like searching for answers, trying to grasp understanding, like why did this happen? How come it happen? And why now? And why this way? Like, wasn't there like a lesbian that I needed to signify? I needed to become attached to the trauma of
Mm.
the experience.
I think, Liz, it's
I
breaking up a
searched
little
within
bit.
myself.
It's breaking up a little bit. We could hear you, but it's a little bit, we're missing some parts.
Okay, I'm sorry about that.
It's okay.
Um,
There you are.
yeah, I was saying that I was I was committed to not allowing the pain to become suffering.
Mm.
And so I got really in touch with my own spirit and with my daughter. And I am Mexican originally, so I for November 1st, we celebrate the Day of the Dead, but November 1st is the Day of the Dead for babies and children. November 2nd
Mm.
is the Day of the Dead for adults, like general dead.
Mhm.
And without knowing, without realizing, because I don't really follow the Gregorian calendar that much, I am in my own timeline. I did a ceremony. I lit up some candles and I started praying and I did my stuff. And then messages from my daughter started coming through. And she said, "You have to go to Brazil
Mm.
and you have to do an initiation." And I was like, "What do you mean? Like, how am I going to go to Brazil? I've never been to Brazil. I don't know anyone in Brazil. Like, this is nuts." And a few weeks later, my niece, who lives in Spain, told me, "Hey, I'm in Brazil. Why don't you come
Wow.
over?" Having like this ceremony with this shaman who was brought up in one of the tribes, and he's like a great person. And then I said, "I don't know, let me see about it. Can I meet him?" And we met on a video call like this, and he looked at me and he said, "You have to come to Brazil."
Mm.
And when a shaman, like a traditional shaman, looks at you in the eye and tells you you have to come to Brazil, you don't hesitate. You make your
Mm.
bags, you pack your bags, you buy your ticket, and you go to Brazil, period. You know? And while I was in Brazil, I had been a student of plant medicine for a number of years as well. But when I was in Brazil, I experienced not only, what a traditional plant medicine entails, which is a ceremony, which is, a lot of cleansing and purging and,
Mm.
a lot of healing for
Mhm.
me personally because of my loss and my grief and my pain and in my cellular body, like I could feel the grief of my ancestors
Mm.
leaving my body. It was very
Wow.
cathartic.
Wow.
And when I was in that ceremony, I received information and people call codes. I basically just some this light knowing, this inner knowing of how to anchor this healing around the womb space for other women. And
Mm.
then I was given this whole framework of how to allow women to purify from ancestral wounds and from ancestral trauma, and has been, in my view, absolutely life altering.
Mm.
And this work is so precious and it's so beautiful. And then I started seeing, and this is uncanny, I started seeing streams of babies coming down. And I was like,
Mm.
what? What's all these babies? And we're like, the New Earth babies. And they're all being anchored, like waiting for their moms to want to commit to the work, to shedding the
Mm,
stuff that is no longer serving them, to expand the breadth of their body of light, to really heal themselves so that these children can come to earth and experience life from a perspective that is beyond the first, second chakra and third chakra, like, the rat race and having money and being famous, all
mm,
those kinds of things where these children are irrelevant. They want parents and they want families who are committed to a better way of life, a different way of living
mm,
on earth. And I know that you have shared many times the future that you have seen, and that even though you don't necessarily share your visions in detail,
mm,
these are those kinds of visions, It's when you realize that this is happening
mm-hmm,
and you are a part of it, I am a part of it, and there's a lot of people who are collectively making this possible in their own way.
mm, mm-hmm.
So it started revealing like that, and I was like overwhelmed, like, what am I going to do with all of this? And
Yeah.
then I started seeing women. I work with pregnant women who want to develop more of our relationship with our children, or who just want to understand a little bit more about themselves before giving birth, or who are actually facing this transition between maidenhood into motherhood. I'm a death doula as well, so I can assist them in the process of stop being who they were and prepare themselves to become who they will be. And this transition phase is quite interesting from a spiritual perspective as well. And when I work in the quantum realms as well, and through shamanic journeying and channeling and stuff, and I started seeing, you know, these majestic dragons in these women's fields protecting these new earth babies. And I was
Mm.
like,
Can I pause
I'm
you
not
for a
gonna lie
moment?
to you.
Yeah,
Yes,
can I
please.
pause you for a moment? There's so many things you said I want to respond to, but I don't know if I'll remember them now.
Oh,
Um,
sorry.
I'm just like enamored. I'm like, yes, tell me more. But when you were talking in the beginning, I want to dedicate this episode to your daughter as well. I didn't realize that it was, of course, I didn't consciously realize that it was you're coming into that 1 year. Can you say her name for us?
Arati.
Arati. And so, and something else you shared too, when you were talking about the cycles and the womb, it felt so good in my body, actually. I felt like you really set up energetic space in that lower body, and it felt very dimensional. It felt very loving and pure. And I know what you're saying. It's like the suppression, the power, like it's all cut down. But I feel like when we get to explore and it comes through the way you shared it. And I just really, I didn't read your guess. I didn't want to interrupt you. I didn't read like your bio, but I think I'm going to save it for the end at this point, just to not pull us out of the conversation. But I want to hear. So then you're moving into this energy, Liz Eagle Snake, I want to say, into this next part, this initiation and the shaman. Like, I love that you're like, the shaman says do this, and you pack your bags. That's it. Nobody's like, let me sit with fear and think about it. And I love that, like, you're like you were like literally invited, and I love stories like this because it makes us go into what we think, right, is going to happen versus what the energy is telling us to move into, and that's the new earth, right? That's the new earth energy. And I want to hear, so now you are a spirit baby intuitive. Babies are coming like, hey Liz, like let's do this, like you're the womb master. Like, and the dragon, I love the dragon
Well,
energy. What do people call it? The dragon vibes, the dragon. That does not surprise me. It doesn't. I've seen dragon energy with people. But yeah, tell us more.
it's so multidimensional and multifaceted,
Mm,
but at the same time, it's so tender and so human. And this is kind of like where I am sitting at the moment. It's because on the one hand, I have the quantum realms and the
Mm,
dragons, the opal dragons with those
mm,
multicolored rays and frequencies of super bright lights.
mm,
And then on the other hand, I have feathers and I have shamanic journeying. And
mm,
it's, it's confronting because our
mm,
paradigm is like somewhere with one or the other
mm,
or something else completely, saying om and chanting and forgetting about that. But spirituality in the end is going to speak to you in your own
mm,
language. And I have spent so many years enriching and studying because I love studying and learning new different things that I feel like nature just expresses and spirit worlds expresses to me in all these layers because it can.
mm,
Simple as that. And if I were, a Kabbalah student, it would express to me in Sephiras and Kabbalah and
mm,
codes and Hebrew words, but I'm not. So it talks to
mm,
me in energy and colors and dragons and feathers and
mm,
initiations because, I am a plant medicine student. So I I took in this work with a lot of humbleness of heart and with a lot of tenderness for and reverence towards the womb. Like I said, when you're in ceremony, the same as when you're in deep meditation, you receive information, you receive some words, you receive, these codes or whatever you call it, downloads, some people call them. And you can't question them because they
mm,
feel so true. They're so transparent and so
mhm,
clear. And I was told something like this. Imagine you have a newborn and you have two cribs to choose from to place the newborn in either one or the other. One has 100% cotton, base net that has the softest, space for this newborn and it's warm and it's perfect. It's like a cocoon. And
mm,
the other one is like a shoebox. Which one are you gonna? I mean,
mm,
both are suitable, but I think that most people would prefer to put the newborn in the place that is, cocooned and protected. And so I'm not trying to say that my womb was like a shoebox, but I had a lot of
mm,
trauma.
mm,
I had a lot of experiences that had been passed down from my grandmother. She died of cervical cancer.
mm,
Mother experienced, being abandoned, and
mm,
I was a domestic violence survivor. I was abused. I was sexually abused. So
mm,
I had a lot of trauma. And
mm,
what my daughter taught me is if you, because the womb is this vessel and she has the memories. She has all of these memories.
mm,
The womb holds all these frequencies.
mm.
And so it's not like to say it to make anyone feel bad. We've all had wounds of being disliked, of being, I mean, sexual abuse is something that everyone has experienced in one way or another. And
Unfortunately, so it seems, yeah.
unfortunately, it's horrible.
Yeah, it's
But
pretty, yeah.
the thing is that this makes our own connection more difficult. It
Mm.
tampers with it. And
Yeah,
so,
I want to like, yeah, I want to, this is a really good expansion conversation because you say it with so much truth and authority. And I think that's what women are missing is like some women will say, well, I can't conceive, or there's some sacral wound or heart wound. And it is very feminine, very creative. And we don't think about the lineage that much. Like some people will go, yeah, what's this backstory? And I know what you're saying. It's not about blaming people, of course. That's what we go, oh, well, it's my fault and I suck and my family, whatever. But the world is built on so many wounded experiences, right, of trauma. And yet we're all trying
mm,
to listen to the how that wants to clear. And I know like for my story with I was terrified to have a children. And I've leaked that out for many years on the podcast because there was a big wound in that space for me, my mother's mother, and I felt it. But I also was like, didn't know what to do with it. And so it ended up with being a really dark night of the soul pregnancy and a highly traumatic, life-changing birth because it was so traumatizing to me. And it had so much healing to do. And I knew it was more than me, but it was hard to know what to do with it. You know, it's like, what am I supposed to do with it? I felt like I was going to break in half and die, right? Postpartum, depression, wanting to die, like that feeling of like, what am I even doing here? Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
And it's so it's so sad that because you didn't have the tools at the time
yeah,
or the language or even the awareness,
mm,
like you were robbed of the most sacred time of your life
yeah,
because being pregnant and being postpartum,
mm,
like there's no more blissful time for a woman. There
mm,
shouldn't be.
mm-hmm,
It's the
yeah,
culmination of,
yeah,
you know, I'm not saying that all women, you know, feel this way toward motherhood. I know that. I denied myself from being a mother again for 20 years. So,
yeah,
but when I connected with my truth, with
mm,
my real actual truth, I was afraid as well as you because of all
yeah,
the trauma that I was holding inside my womb. And it was just there. It was not able to express itself, but my
mm-hmm,
trauma was there.
yeah,
So what I did is that my womb froze, like, it closed down. And when I looked at it after my daughter
yeah,
passed away, I noticed that what she did is she she demolished the old womb and she gave me
wow,
like kind of like a new, vessel so that I could start almost from scratch. And then I still did my work and it's
yeah,
been so healing, but not only healing, but expanding. I
wow,
feel
yeah,
myself expanded in so many ways. And my
mm-hmm,
work with women around their own ability to connect to their own womb, their intuition, their spiritual work has like enhanced tremendously. And I really see how it's so it might feel a bit overwhelming to begin like, well, but where do I
yeah,
even begin, right?
yeah,
So I want to invite everyone to develop a self-care practice,
mm,
and it's just literally putting your hands over your womb, like below your belly button, and silencing your mind and
mm,
allowing, because she's there, this
mm-hmm,
this this consciousness is there, and so
mm,
she's just waiting. She's waiting to for you to want to listen.
mm,
And so it's so enriching, just taking that minutes. First, you're gonna feel like silly, like, oh, what am I even doing,
mm,
And then it's gonna be like, oh, wait, what's that? That feels weird. And there is this energy that starts awakening within all women once we begin this practice. And then it starts, enhancing. And then you can start incorporating other practices like following the moon
mm-hmm,
cycles and your own menstrual cycle and syncing it with the moon and understanding how, the moon is really influencing our own womb all the time, whether we realize it or not. And it's just these little practices that I always encourage women to do so that they can connect with their womb. And it's just manifesting in so many ways for them as well. I see them with heightened intuition,
mm,
paying more attention, receiving dreams that are giving them guidance to make decisions about their lives.
mm,
Like I am working with a woman who's wanting to buy a property, but she's facing things. And when she had a dream the other night, and she shared it with me, and she was like, now I know what my dreams are telling me. They're telling me that I need to stop being so stubborn and da da da, da, you know. I was like, wow, really, this work, this oracle
Mm.
work.
I think we froze up a little bit here. We hear this oracle work is, and then you disappearing, Liz. So I don't know if you can hear me. Uh-oh.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Oh, we heard this oracle work, and then it's like, what is it? Like, what is she telling us? We're like getting the
Sorry.
transmission right now through the energy. We have to sit and wait.
Oh, no.
Uh-oh, he disappeared. I'm sure she'll come back on in just a moment. Here she is. I feel like Liz is back. She lives in an unstable space with Wi-Fi, which happens, right? I mean, it happens. Welcome back, Liz. I hope we could hear you. How
Yeah,
are you?
absolutely.
See, she left us more in this
I'm still
initiation
here.
space.
Yeah, I know. I was just saying, can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you.
Yes, good. I was just saying that these oracular capacities or
Mm,
work comes from within you as a woman.
mm,
And, we hear stories about the oracles of Delphi and of the ancient Greeks.
mm,
And they were women who would sit at the altar of their own wombs and would connect
mm.
with their inner wisdom. And so, for me, my greatest oracular power is connecting with my womb and looking at
Mm.
the moon. And it might sound super mystical, but I just do it, just like I follow anything else. Like you can follow someone on social media, well, follow the moon.
I love
Simple as
that.
that.
It's like
It's not that difficult.
it's like your womb is your oracle.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Because it's going to start revealing things to you about how you're feeling. And so when you realize how you're feeling, how your heightened intuition is, or how certain emotions are there, then you know the kind of work that is coming up, that is showing up, that is asking for
Mm.
you, for your attention.
I love that. As
So
you were
it's like,
speaking, sorry, as you were speaking, I saw a hummingbird come to my window. And
that's beautiful.
yeah, I love that because I'm a really attentive when I'm in conversation with people and animals come around because like, what is that? Because they're sensing energy and their connection. And yeah, I have been enjoying this connection of the womb because I can feel your conversation. You're not just sharing words. And I feel like what I've seen in social media and the culture of womb wellness, it's very biological, right? It feels like there's so much
Mhm.
energy in the biology and it's not. I mean, I'm like tired of hearing it. It's like numbers and this. It's like when we can really kind of sink in and like you said, I felt like what I heard you say was like there's not one way. Like you're kind of just we're figuring ourselves out with past traumas and with the world we're in. And I remember at one time I learned about moon cycles and I had this very biological idea, like a paper with emotions, and I followed it for months. This was years ago. And it really did help me in that time. And then I'm evolving and I'm listening really deeply because it's easy for me, to be honest. And I'm not say it's a brag, but it really feels easy to hear my cycle. And I've noticed when I go into
Mhm.
phases, like I could, because they're like, oh, 7 to 10 days. And all of a sudden I feel my energy move and it's very subtle. And I'm like, oh, my luteal phase is coming right now. Okay. So I do things differently. I'm going to be doing less activities, being in the tired. I'm going to eat more nourishing foods and I don't intermittent fast as much. I kind of close the window down so I don't get I want to nourish that my blood is coming, my moon is coming is what I call it. And so this, I feel like more
Mm.
recently I've been more in tune with it, and it's been really nice because I'm like, oh, I could see why women get misattuned because the outside noise, the mind is like always running and blasting off. And it's like, I feel like if we can even create an intention of like our connection. And I'm going to write an article about hormones because I feel like everybody's like, I hate my hormones. I hate my hormones. Something's wrong. Something's wrong. Something's wrong. Why is everything always wrong? Why can't it just be your body's in a cycle and maybe one time, maybe 1 month you're not bleeding for a reason? Like, why do we have to go to something bad? It's like if we're moving in energy and cycles, then our creative force, our feminine energy is too, right?
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. I feel also that we are pathologizing
Yeah.
symptoms when
Yeah.
symptoms are nudges.
Mm.
And for me, the womb is the second heart.
Oh, I love that.
Like,
Yeah, yeah. I've heard that. Yeah.
so imagine how many women live with birth control, suppressing
Mm,
the expression, the freedom
mm,
of expression of that second heart. And
yeah.
so if you have a nozzle over your face, your mouth all the time, you're gonna get tired and you're gonna start throwing a fit. So don't be surprised if, you start feeling weird symptoms or things that are out of control because our hormones is they're so they're so fascinating hormones, I think,
Yeah.
because for me they're the link between our more subtle bodies
Mm,
and our physical body.
mm,
They
mm-hmm,
regulate this sort of interface of communication because sometimes we feel things emotionally and our hormones respond and therefore our body is able to process certain things or not. And
mm,
so it's quite fascinating. Hormones, they're like, I don't know, they're mystical in their own way. And a lot of women, and you will know this, like a lot of women do IVF and then they do hormonal treatments and
mm-hmm,
or don't because everything is perfect, but I still can't get pregnant. I still can't get pregnant. Like, what's
mm,
happening? And then you realize, oh, maybe there's some trauma that you haven't been addressing.
mm,
And it's not about perfection with these new earth children. It's not like, oh, they're not going to come through until
mm,
you're perfect. No, bullshit. That's not true. It has nothing to do with perfection.
mm,
It has everything to do with commitment to betterment, to bettering
mm,
yourself, to expanding yourself, to transcending the old paradigm. And
mm,
that old paradigm comes with ancient wounds and with lineage trauma and with
mm,
collective consciousness, limiting beliefs and so forth.
mm,
So I'm not saying, oh, these babies are not going to come until you're pristine and perfect. No.
mm,
In fact, as soon as these women sometimes commit, and I've seen it, is like, I'm ready now. I'm gonna do this work. I wanna, like
mm,
clean my baggage and immediately they conceive. Because again, it's not about perfection, it's about commitment. And the women that are really ready to, and not only the women, the men too, and the families in general, whichever way the women are getting pregnant to through his IVF or donation or even adoption,
mm-hmm,
etc. I've heard of divine conceptions through adoption as well. It's like
mm-hmm.
everything just happens miraculously, and
I
it's like,
know.
whoa.
Yeah.
So I think that there is so much mystery and trying to put everything in place is like a joke because you can't even fathom some of these things. However, having an open heart
Mm,
and really wanting to connect in a deeper way to your own life
mm,
and to your humanness, but also your spiritual self, it's really the opening door for a lot of people. I feel
mm,
like we are being asked to, like I said, get out of the first, second, and third chakra. The first chakra being survival, the
mm,
second chakra being earthly or shallow desires, and the third chakra being, ego, like lower ego,
mm,
about having a lot of something like money or fame or these things.
Mm.
and going into our heart chakra and our sixth and seventh chakra, which are the intuition and then the spirit. And so it really gives life a different depth. And so, you know, even when you experience loss and grief, when you are not trapped in this idea of finite and lack or, yeah, scarcity, then you can see how life is enriching even in the absence of perfection,
Mm.
and how even death is just a step,
Mm.
you know? And I feel like there is a lot of work that wants to come forward and a lot of wisdom that's held within each woman.
Mm.
It's not mine, it's not yours, it's nobody's. It belongs to every
Mm.
single one of the women on earth.
Mhm.
And just being willing to reconnect to this ability to understand the mysteries that lie beyond there, or understand there's mysteries beyond our
Mm.
understanding, you know?
Mhm.
Just accepting that. So that's what I've been basically doing. It's just, it feels like such a, yeah, I feel like you said it before. We have been trying to have this conversation for a number of months now. I
Yeah.
believe we started getting like trying to schedule this since last year.
Yeah.
And now that my work has sort of taken this new turn with my initiation in Brazil and
Mm.
with the visit of the dragon energy and all of
Mm.
that, I feel like they really were holding us back so that I could come in and tell you all my crazy stories.
Well, and then also something else I wanted to share. We were laughing because we both are wearing very similar colors. What did you get the turquoise and white memo? Because we did. We did psychically because we showed up, but yesterday, so my son's doing 3D prints now, and he has this dragon. And I want the dragon. And it's a little, it's he says it's a little broken, but some little girl was trying, I'm like, I'm gonna fight her for this dragon because he was trying to low sell it. And I was like, I will pay top money for that. I want a dragon because I do know dragon energy is very powerful, earth energy. And so I'm not going to go deeper into it, but it's just interesting. You're talking about the dragon. I'm like, I literally yesterday haven't really thought about the dragon. It's like, it's fascinating how like we see things and then we can completely shut it off and be like, oh, I don't even notice it, but I notice these things. And I notice the timelines, but sometimes I don't have all the answers either. Like I feel and
Mm,
sense into the world and then I go, well, that may happen or may not happen. I think because sometimes when I see things, I actually don't want them to happen. But I'm also just trying to be just a free-flowing witness to that you can
mm,
perceive things and your fear or judgment on them is your own, right? Because people are like, well,
yeah,
when you see death, is it negative? And this is a really hard one for people. When I see death, it's not negative. It doesn't mean
no.
there's not grief and pain, but I can't control that the energy of the death space, it doesn't show me as something bad, negative, horrible, or and it's very confusing to people because they're like, wait a second, I don't understand. Because I feel like the old psychic ways is like, you're getting a premonition and is it good or bad, right? And I go, wow, this is
Mm,
interesting because I can get premonitions, but the energy attached to good and bad is my own. And so
mm,
to hold neutrality is hard because I see things and I go, well, how can I be neutral? And like something I've been sharing more privately, and I'm just going to share it more here, is that when my father he was fine one moment and then he wasn't, let's just say. And the weeks before he was birthing through into the death space, he wouldn't talk to me on the phone, he wouldn't call, and I can feel his energy. And I put him into certain energy places that I've never done before. And I was visiting him a month or two before, and I kept saying, "Are you going to die?" He said, "Not today." February came, and I'm like, "Oh, he's not there." And so I started sending him texts to say, "I love you," because he kept he didn't respond once or twice. And then I sent him this beautiful picture of my eye and my face, which is on my other Instagram, because it's my dad. Like I look like my dad. And so we had the hazel eyes. And so what I did, I sent that to him, and he actually, we found in his phone, he replied back but never hit send. And it was so sad. My brother hit send the day he died to me, and it says, "You are so beautiful." It was like my dad's last message to me. And so I actually told a few people, some of my friends, I said, March, my dad's going to be either A, he's going to be completely healed because I can feel his freedom and love in his body. I just knew it, or he's going to be dead. And then people like, they get really scared when you say that. And I understand why. I don't
Mm.
want to be the grim reaper, but I can see, I know. So then I was like, of course, in my heart, I'm like, well, maybe a miracle will happen and he'll be here upon earth. And that's my judgment, right? That's my space. But the truth was yeah, and he died March 2nd. So I didn't know when he would die in March. And I either said either A, he's going to get really, again, completely healed and fine. And I'm like, is that even logically possible? Because his body looked really tired, but his mind was very sharp. But then I was like, oh, and then later I go, oh my gosh, he was already in the death space. He was going to die, is what I know, right? So I'm like, okay, he was going to die, and but it didn't feel bad,
That's the thing. It when I was in labor with my daughter, I did traverse some very unknown spaces.
yeah,
Uh, and so, but I wasn't afraid. I
yeah,
didn't feel fear at any time. I felt, well, very expanded, but I was
yeah,
about to give birth, so I didn't really understand what was happening.
yeah,
Uh, because my first daughter, she was born via C-section, so I never
um,
actually experienced a birth. And so, but you're right, it's not scary.
yeah,
And I think that a lot of people confuse the human experience with the spiritual experience. And
yeah,
for the spirit is liberating in a sense because there is no more pain when they're in
yeah.
a physical space where there's pain,
It's
with either
true.
illness or whatever.
People don't realize
There's
that
no.
too. Yeah, is that even with babies, like the
Mhm.
organism of biology feels here. And
Of course.
then when this is the thing with spirit babies I share a lot, is that we attach so many emotional conversations to make sense of it, but spirit babies don't have, they're in a frequency that doesn't have this. So this is
Yeah.
why you've probably seen, that's why spirit babies through loss, through termination, they're not angry or upset or pissed off. They're just, it doesn't work that way. And people don't understand
Yeah.
that. I'm like, they're in a frequency where that doesn't even exist. That fear doesn't
Mm.
exist. So then what do you do with that? It's like, it's so hard, right, for our minds to like take it in, like, and not project. I could have
But how
projected,
healing is it for a
yeah,
mom
yeah,
to know that, like when a woman comes to you and she says, I had an abortion, I would like to speak to that child,
yeah,
and the baby's like, ah, yeah, that's fine. Like, I understand why you'd made the decision. It
yeah,
wasn't the right time for you. Like, I
yeah.
love you
Yeah,
and you're
women are
good,
like,
and
they
that's
don't,
fine.
yeah, and women don't get that. They think with termination that they're like in damnation. Really, I mean, it really comes back to religion. I mean, I'm sorry, that's what it comes back to. Religion has steeped into the
Yeah.
subconscious Judeo-Christian like beliefs, not like, probably more than that, but just religion in general. It's like you're bad, you're horrible, this is not good. And that's what's like in the minds of women. So they're thinking, oh my gosh. And some women carry that deep level of trauma for a long time and not realizing that their baby's right there and just and ready to communicate and heal together, you know?
Yeah. And then something that I want to mention is that because I also see a lot of women who have experienced stillbirth and
Mm.
miscarriage, because I find, because of my own experience, they feel like we can share this.
Yeah.
And so, what I explain to them as well is that sometimes these babies have the mission of expanding our own ability to hold a reality.
Mm.
And so, I saw this woman last year, and she experienced a stillbirth. at 30 something weeks a few years back. And I told her through communication with her baby that he came through her womb, and his life ended in her womb because she needed assistance to be able to birth,
Mm,
to be able to carry and birth his two younger brothers
mm,
and their little sister. And so I asked her if she thought that without that stillbirth, like energetically,
mm,
how demanding her other children were, because they're like very new earth babies as well, like a lot of
mm,
expansionness and spiritual awareness, if she was in that place. And she said, no, my stillborn
mm.
gave me or propelled me in my spiritual journey. And so he helped me heal and expand and become more aware. And then
Wow.
I was able to conceive then my three children. And she's so happy that this baby assisted his little
Mm,
brothers and sister and her whole family to, live the life that they have today. And so every conception, whatever happens to that conception, is an expansion in the womb.
wow. Yes.
So the womb holds the ability for the woman to literally hold that reality, the reality in which she's a mother,
Mm,
the reality in which she's a nurturer. And if she has a lot of unresolved wounds or unattended past history, she might not be able to devote herself in the same degree. So these children come with the mission of allowing her to shed, to evolve, to heal. But are the women like, I feel like sometimes we're not getting the message.
mm,
And there is this deep thinking that miscarriage is because we're doing things bad or
yeah.
because we are not looking after ourselves, instead of saying, how is this helping me? How is
Mm,
this loss that is very profound and that is
yeah.
heartbreaking? How is it assisting me in my own personal journey, in my own spiritual journey, and as a woman, you know?
I
So I
love
really
that.
invite,
Yeah. I love that. And then they're gonna like come to Liz, get there. You
the
should
thing
take
is,
people.
that everyone has the ability to heal their themselves.
Mm,
And from our higher self, we provide ourselves with the experiences that we need in order to learn, to heal, to expand. And
mm,
so sometimes we're just given the tough ones because we know we can take it from a different perspective, from a higher
mm,
perspective, where pain
mm,
and suffering are not really a part of the equation.
mm-hmm,
And so just finding that nectar in our own stories, and say, if I've lived a lot of trauma, you probably have, everyone has experienced trauma.
mm-hmm,
And when we have the capacity of reflection and hindsight, say years
mm,
down the line, we can look back and say, would I be where I am today if I hadn't lived that really awful experience? Would I be the person that I am? And sometimes the answer is no, because it taught me so much about myself. It
mm,
taught me about my own power. And this is not to diminish anyone's experience by any means,
mm-hmm,
but I do feel that we always are faced with things that are there for our own betterment.
mm-hmm.
Nobody's there to crush anyone's soul.
Yeah. So
It might feel like that sometimes.
yeah. No, really great insights, wisdoms. I want to share, we're coming to the end there. I want to share your there's so much, I feel like there's a healing episode. There's so much around grief, love, transformation. There's so many. I love that you use the word nectar. It's like all this deliciousness of our healing. And we are alchemists to the journey. And I love how you do share a lot of, we're not minimizing that. Yeah, there's fucking grief and there's pain and suffering, but that is welcomed. We have to go into those spaces, right? And yet we get to somewhat decide, we're with not, with the least control is like, what do we want to be in creation with our life forward? And I do feel like with any death, we can receive the medicine really, and it you won't receive it in the moment of shock, trauma, and grief. That's okay. But I knew when my mother died and then my brother died, what am I doing? What am I doing to heal? What am I doing to receive something powerful that they are not here? And then now with my dad, like, what am I doing? Like, it pushes me to expand. I can feel it. Like, I'm terrified to do certain things. And I'm like, but I'm going to do it anyways. Get out of your way.
Mm.
Like, that's where I'm going with it. It's not with like anchoring, but I'm like, okay, we can use the gift of our children, those that have had loss, to everything that Liz was saying. I feel like there's a healing and a power in that. And so, Liz, I want to share your guest episode. What I wanted to share in the beginning, but your
Bye.
energy moved so beautifully. I was like, I'm not going to interrupt her now. And so it will
I'm
be in the
sorry.
show notes. No, it will be in the show notes, but here is more about Liz. I feel like everybody feels and knows you, but Liz Eagle Snake is a medicine woman, channeler, quantum healer, and spiritual companion. Her main focus is to walk with women through the spiritual awakening and expansion journey, accompanying women to deepen their spiritual connection to their greater self, their children in spirit, their innate womb wisdom, to activate deep remembrance, or do deep healing and resignification work is her life's mission. And she offers a place of emotional and energetic intimacy that allows women to really dive deep. Liz Eaglesnake works alongside plant medicine spirits and descended masters and teachers to accomplish great changes and gain deep awareness. And so, how do we find you? What is your website, your Instagram, or how do people find you?
Instagram is really my preferred channel because it's just right there. Instagram or Facebook, spiritual.doula. Uh, that's my name on both platforms.
Okay,
And
excellent. Any final words?
I am so honored to be in this space. I feel like you are like the work that you've been doing for so long. It's so beautiful and so expansive. And it's such an important work because it blends in spirit with magic and the mundane and everything in between. And I feel like that's where humanity is
Mm.
right in the convergence of magic and spirit and the mundane. That's where we are. And when we are able to really bring all of these ingredients together, that's when life becomes multicolored. And I'm very, very happy to be in this space. I always look forward to connecting with women and families, and I just, yeah, I look forward to being able to spread the medicine of this work and the wisdom of our children who are like just waiting for us to say yes.
Well, thank you again so much, Liz, for being here. Thank you for joining Spirit Baby Radio with your host, me, Kelly Meehan. Please join my community and stay in touch with monthly energy rants, Spirit Baby poetry, and get access to Spirit Baby 101 with tips and practices at my newsletter at newearthchildren.com. And join me on Instagram with lives at Spirit Baby Medium, and join the Mighty Networks, the Spirit Baby Collective membership, and Motherhood to Mediumship. Remember, you are the heart that holds communication, and it is your time to connect. Come share in the great shift of your mind and the true spirit of your heart with Spirit Baby Communication.